Last weekend, I was riding in an Uber Express pool. My fellow female passenger was angry she was dropped so far from her destination. So she tried to punch the driver and steal his phone. The driver got out of the car, pushing her away, defending himself. Cops sped up, pulling the two apart, assuming it was the driver's fault. As he was being interrogated by the police, he kept begging for his phone. "I need to turn off my Uber app," he pled. "If I don't pick up my next client, they will charge me for the trip and deactivate me from the platform." This 60-something Korean man was more afraid of the wrath of Uber than the wrath of the police. And rightly so. Uber could have unilaterally cut off his livelihood with no hearing, no notice, and no appeal. This driver is an independent contractor, which in theory means he should have complete independence over setting his own rates, working conditions, and contract terms. However, gig platforms like Uber use changing incentives and the threat of deactivation to exert unprecedented control over their allegedly independent workforce. These statements may lead you to believe that I'm anti-business, but actually, I worked at Uber. When I joined the company running their East African operations, I was excited about creating thousands of economic opportunities for people in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, where unemployment rates are really high. And I was excited about improving mobility in cities hungry for convenient, affordable transportation. But that excitement quickly gave way to disillusionment. Every 2 weeks, I hosted focus groups with around 20 drivers. They told me, "Alissa, we're making no money on this platform. We work for 100 hours every week, and we only take home $20. When I ran the historical data, their stories checked out. When Uber first launched in East Africa, they offered very generous rates and bonuses to make the economic opportunity a no-brainer. Drivers, with the encouragement of Uber, took out multi-year loans to finance the relatively new vehicles required to join the platform. 1 year after launch and 2 weeks after I joined the company, we slashed rates by 35%, shifting all of that onto drivers. It would not be the last bait and switch the company would pull. When I raised concerns about driver earnings to management, their message to me was clear. Gig workers are an expendable resource for growth. Because of the company's labor practices, I quit after a short 6 months to, ironically, become an independent worker myself. As an independent worker, I faced many challenges, like clients ghosting when it came time to make their final payment and going 18 months without health insurance. In Kenya, 80% of adults are self-employed. This means that you have no guaranteed salary, no retirement contributions, no paid leave, no employer-sponsored benefits, and you have to pay all your own expenses. The issue of the lack of protections for contract workers may seem like a distant emerging market problem, but the US economy is evolving to look like Kenya's. Since 2010, the IRS has reported a 6% year-on-year increase in the number of independent relative to full-time workers. By 2020, half of Americans will be self-employed. Full-time W-2 workers in this country have several protections, thanks to the labor movement, which started around the time of the Industrial Revolution. Factory owners treated their workers as expendable, forcing them to work 100-hour weeks just to maximize profits. Workers organized into unions and rioted, resulting in the 1938 Fair Labor Standards Act, which instituted the 40-hour work week, banned child labor, and set standards around minimum wage and overtime pay. None of these protections apply to contractors, which threatens to increase the unprecedented levels of inequality we see in this country. Corporations are systemically contorting full-time positions into contract positions to minimize their fixed labor costs. Oftentimes, contractors will work for the same single company for years. By changing nothing more than that individual's formal employment status, companies are sidestepping the hard-won worker protections of the 20th century and shifting risk from investors to workers. Why do I care so much about this misclassification issue? Well, my dad was classified as an independent contractor for the 25 years he worked at his company. He made less than $20,000 and received no benefits. If my mom, a public school teacher, did not have generous benefits, I have no idea how he would have retired or my family would have accessed quality health insurance. Some of the worst offenders of contract worker abuse are in our own backyard. I learned 5 minutes before this session started that Stanford is increasingly shifting to contractors rather than full-time employees to reduce their benefits obligations, such as giving their employees free college tuition for their children. The communications coaches who helped us with these presentations are on short-term rather than full-time contracts. Google has more contractors on its payroll than full-time employees. How many of you have ordered something on Amazon Prime in the past month? All of us, same. Well, chances are that that package was delivered to you by an Amazon Flex contract employee who post-expenses can make as little as $5 an hour, under half of California's $11 minimum wage. Contract workers in Arizona moderate explicit content on the Facebook platform. They spend hours every day watching horrific videos of murder and sexual exploitation. Several suffer from PTSD, which Facebook, of course, provides no support for because they're just contractors, not employees. These contractors make $15 an hour, or a mere $28,000 a year. Silicon Valley, fed by Stanford talent, has profited from driving down the wages of low-skilled workers. We've moved backwards as a society, back to where we were at the start of the Industrial Revolution, back to the age of the 100-hour work week and no effective minimum wage, back to the age where workers' rights are dependent on the benevolence of management, dependent on the whims of the people in this room, rather than protected by law. The good news is that gig workers are organizing to demand their rights. In the past few weeks, Instacart shoppers took to Reddit and Facebook forums to oppose Instacart's policy of deducting tips from their minimum guaranteed base pay. This time, the workers won. Instacart agreed to change its policy and pay out tips separately from base pay, and they instituted new minimum payments per delivery. David won against Goliath. I'd like to leave you with this. By being at the GSB, we are in a place of incredible privilege. Our starting salary coming out of this school will be $110,000 higher than, or 2.8x, the median household income in the United States. Your employer will almost certainly give you health insurance and paid leave and retirement contribution, on top of dinners at Nobu, free trips to Cancun, and SoulCycle classes. I say this not to guilt you, but to implore you to be a voice for those who do not have the same level of privilege. You may be wondering what you can do. Well, you can start by tipping. Tip generously, and tip with cash or another form of payment where you know the funds will directly reach workers. Beyond tipping, you can email HR if you witness contract worker mistreatment within your organization. If you work in big tech, chances are that mistreatment exists. If you see contract workers working crazy hours or earning wages that post-expenses are below minimum wage, or see workers doing the work of a full-time employee, so they deserve full benefits. And if your management is unwilling to listen like mine was, you can have the courage to go to the press, even anonymously. Publications like the New York Times, Recode, and Bloomberg have exposed stories that have shamed companies like Facebook and Instacart into making changes. The disappearance of quality employment opportunities threatens to exacerbate the unprecedented levels of inequality that we see in our country and our Bay Area community. Shirking your ethical responsibilities to workers may seem like smart business, but it stunts the economic mobility of your workers and their children. Don't be a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution towards just employment. Thank you.